Welcome to the March meeting of Buchanan. Obviously, Teresa is not here tonight. I'm taking her place. She has the flu, and I hope she gets well very soon. Didn't sound good at all, and I hope it's not one of those really bad flus. So first, before we begin, know the emergency exits, and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a very pleasant thing to start the meeting with. We are giving a plaque to one of our officers, one of our dedicated officers. So, Bob, if you'll come up, and Cheech, you join me?
Sure. May I just give a little background information?
I forgot.
Yeah, it's on.
Doesn't sound like it's on.
Tap it. It's on.
The chief is going to. I'll let you talk too, Chief. The chief is going to explain what great heroics that Bob did.
I'll get out of the way so you can see. Thank you, Trustee Funchin. On January 23rd, Officer Buddy received a call from a resident, not a resident, but somebody who was in the village of Buchanan. The only thing he could discern from this call was an address. The woman was hysterically screaming. He went there not knowing what kind of call he was going to encounter on that evening. And when he got there, he was expecting, as he told me, he was expecting to find a family fight there. There was no such family fight going on. What he encountered was a home health care aide who was specifically assigned to take care of this infant. The infant had stopped breathing. The infant had no breathing and no pulse. Officer Buddy immediately went into the house, determined the infant had no breathing and no pulse, and started CPR immediately. He was able to dislodge what was stopping the child from breathing. The child began breathing again and had a pulse. In speaking to the paramedics who arrived that evening, they told me, Officer Robert Buddy saved that baby's life, and he should be commended for that. You yours first?
Yeah, just.
Okay.
Rob, I just wanted to say congratulations and thank you for the wonderful work that you did. And this is the reason why having our own police department is so important.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, I can relate. I'm a retired police officer and handle thousands of jobs. And sure, when you're getting ready to retire, you're going to do the same thing. But you're going to sit back and you're going to think about the jobs that you handle that maybe stick out in your mind that you're going to reflect. I'm sure this is going to be one of them. The board thanks you so much, and we're so proud of you guys. We're proud of your whole police department, especially you. Thank you so much.
This is on behalf of the mayor and the board of trustees. Again, Bob, it was the professionalism you showed. I know I couldn't do that. You know, I used to tell people if you have me as a boss, your chance of living goes down. So I really commend that, and you know, as the chief has said, to be able to get through that whole process where somebody's screaming, you can't understand them, and all you got is the address and everything, to keep calm and everything. And I've also witnessed you with dealing with right outside my door with several people with, let's say, a problem, a pretty bad problem. But in recognition of what you've done, and to say what Chief says too, it says about our department. All our police officers are completely professional. They do a great job, and I think that everybody in this village wants to congratulate the police department, and especially you in this occasion. So presented to Patrolman Robert Buddy, in recognition of your quick response and heroic actions in saving the life of a child on January 23rd, 2018, presented by the Buchanan Village Board, March 6, 2018, Teresa Knickerbocker, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I've got a presentation on behalf of the police department too. It is frame certificate. It simply reads, Village Buchanan Police Department hereby awards Patrolman Robert Buddy Life-Saving Award in recognition of your actions on January 23rd, 2018 in saving the life of an infant. And there's a citation bar that goes along with this award. One last comment I'd like to make. Most people, sure, just one second. Most people, when they join police department, they want to make a difference. And Rob Buddy has made a lot of difference in a lot of people's lives, but he made a huge difference on January 23rd.
Thank you. Want to take it up? Yeah, take it up.
I was going to say Kev. They're so posing.
Thanks again. Brian's got further things to say. Oh, look who's here. Huh? Okay.
I got you.
Brian, you want to give that other presentation, please? Thank you.
Sure, it's just a quick announcement on Thursday, which is the 8th of March. Albany Post Road between 5 o'clock in the morning and probably about 1 o'clock in the afternoon is going to have intermittent traffic stoppages. They're shooting a movie mostly at the Buchanan Home Center, or a scene from a movie, I should say, most at the Buchanan Home Center. The scene is basically going to be just a car turning into the Buchanan Home Center. And apparently they're going to want a bunch of different angles, so they're going to be stopping traffic a bunch of different times. So if you're going to work or going to the train station or the gym or anywhere else, try to avoid Albany Post Road.
Thank you, Chief. We have the approval of the minutes of November 9th, 2017. Any changes?
Nothing for me.
I have nothing.
I have nothing.
All those accepting minutes of the meeting? Motion to accept the minutes of the meeting, excuse me.
Motion to approve the minutes as drafted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have the Village Board Workshop meeting of November 28th, 2017. Any changes?
No.
Nothing for me.
I have one where it says absent for myself. I was recovering from an operation. On the motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meet the Village Board meeting of February 6th. Oh, excuse me, is that? Yeah.
That's right.
That's it.
No, that's the, yeah, that's the right thing, February 6th. I'm sorry. Any changes?
Nothing here?
I have nothing.
Nothing.
Motion to approve the minutes?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have the first resolution.
Comments from the floor.
Oh, yes, right, thank you.
Agenda items only.
The next item is comments from the floor. The reason I overlooked it, I think of all the years I've been here, there's only been one time where somebody got comments from the floor ahead of the meeting, so. Anybody for comments from the floor on agenda items only? Thank you. New business resolution authorizing intermunicipal agreements with the town of Cortland. Whereas the village of Buchanan and the town of Cortland have been cooperating with respect to certain intermunicipal services, and whereas the village and the town annually enter into 3 intermunicipal agreements, which allows for the village to utilize any bids for supplies put out and accepted by the town, allow the village and the town to share each other's vehicles and equipment, and provide for the town to dispose of appliances collected within the village that contain Freon gas. And whereas it is the desire of both the village and the town board to continue this intermunicipal cooperation, resulting in a cost savings to both the village and the town, now be it therefore resolved that the mayor be and hereby is authorized to execute intermunicipal agreements with the town of Cortland, providing for and authorizing the town's purchasing director to include the village in advertisements of all bids by him so that the village may utilize them, allow the village and the town to share each other's vehicles and equipment, and allow the town to dispose of any appliances collected within the village containing Freon gas. On the motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Just an explanation with this. We're probably on the forefront, as if you've ever heard the governor speak, Governor Cuomo, about shared services. Cortland and Buchanan and Croton have been sharing services for quite some time. So this is just a regular thing from year to year. It saves everybody a lot of money. All in favor?
Aye.
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 We have a resolution authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with Westchester County for enhanced 911 services. Whereas the village is desirous of entering into an intermunicipal agreement with Westchester County to operate and maintain the enhanced 911 service for a period of 5 years, and whereas the primary purpose of this IMA is to define the role of Westchester County and local municipalities regarding the provisions of E911 service and the operation of public safety answering points, PSAPS, located throughout the county. And whereas it also provides a necessary framework for the county to continue to provide critical hardware and software maintenance for the E911 system / PSAP infrastructure. Now be it therefore resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute said intermunicipal agreement and all other necessary documents between the village of Buchanan and the county of Westchester for the purposes of providing enhanced 911 and establishing the terms and conditions of same. On the motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Excuse
Aye.
me, is there any discussion? I'm sorry. No?
It's pretty straightforward.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution authorizing the employment of a part-time seasonal employee. Whereas during the spring-summer season, the village will employ individuals on a seasonal basis to assist at the highway department to fill in for employees taking their spring and summer vacations. And whereas it is the desire of the village board to hire the following individual for a period of time beginning on March 9th, 2018, and including on August 31st, 2018, now be it therefore resolved that the following individual be and hereby are appointed subject to the village hiring policies as a seasonal employee to be paid at the hourly rate set forth in their name. Jacob Tussle, $11 an hour for the highway department. Be it further resolved that the village administrator be and hereby is authorized to place the aforementioned individuals on the village payroll for the summer season and to pay the salaries as set forth above. On the motion,
So moved.
Second.
any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Last resolution we have is a resolution supporting immediate state rule making for tanker avoidance zones.
We're,
What's that?
We skipped one,
Which one did I skip?
setting the public hearing.
Just setting public.
Oh, the public hearing, I'm sorry, yeah. Excuse me. Resolution scheduling a public hearing on a proposed local law amending Chapter 181 of the Code of the Village of Buchanan, establishing a tax on utility services of the Village of Buchanan. Whereas a local law has been drafted and introduced which would adopt a local law amending Chapter 181 of the Code of the Village of Buchanan, and whereas the local law has been received and reviewed by the Board of Trustees, which has recommended the adoption of same, whereas it is the desire of the board to conduct a public hearing on the enactment of the proposed local law, now be it therefore resolved that the village board will conduct a public hearing at the Village Municipal Building on May 1st, 2018, at 7:30 p.m. for the purpose of taking public comment on and giving due consideration to the enactment of a local law establishing a tax on utility services by the Village of Buchanan, and be it further resolved that a copy of said local law is available at the village clerk's office for public inspection during regular business hours, and be it further resolved that the village clerk be and hereby is authorized and directed to publish notice of said public hearing in the official newspaper. On motion,
So moved.
second.
discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Is this one?
Yeah, it's a resolution to support this.
Oh, I have it. Is this it?
Yes.
Yeah, if you don't mind. Yes, Nick, please, you read it. Nick.
Yeah. The last resolution is, it's a resolution supporting immediate state agency rule making for tanker avoidance zones. Whereas in 2016, the U.S. Coast Guard proposed establishing new anchorage grounds along the Hudson River between Yonkers and Kingston, and whereas Governor Cuomo signed Article 682(5A)/S.5197B into law and positioned New York State to continue to fulfill its responsibility to the Hudson River and its communities from the many potential dangers presented by oil-carrying vessels on the Hudson River and the proposed additional barge anchorage grounds. And whereas the federal government and New York State share concurrent jurisdiction over the Hudson River, and as long as action by the state is not inconsistent with existing federal regulation and does not unreasonably burden interstate commerce, New York has significant authority to regulate navigable waters like the Hudson River when the state's interest warrants special precautionary measures. Whereas it remains a top priority of the Village of Buchanan to prevent any new anchorage grounds on the Hudson River from being sited at locations where they pose a clear and direct threat to the environment, quality of life, and regional economic development goals of the Hudson Valley. And whereas the Village of Buchanan is home to Lentz Cove Park, located on the shores of the Hudson River, the integrity of which would be threatened by the establishment of new barge anchorage grounds, and whereas the Village of Buchanan has documented its concerns about the anchoring of petroleum-carrying tankers, including disrupting the economic vitality of the waterfront, endangering drinking water supplies, damaging fish habitat, and detracting from scenic beauty and quality of life along the river in a resolution dated August 2nd, 2016. And whereas the U.S. Coast Guard recently conducted 2 ports and waterways safety assessment
workshops for the stretch of the Hudson River between the Tappan Zee Bridge and the Port of Albany, and a recommendation to establish new anchorage grounds was discussed and could be part of the U.S. Coast Guard's report. And whereas New York State has secured important victories that have been essential to public health, the environment, and the economy of the state, including the administration's support for the Environmental Protection Fund, the ban on hydraulic fracturing, increasing funding for the state's oil spill response fund, and issuance of water quality permit decisions relating to energy development and transport have been among these many accomplishments. And whereas, there's a long one, right? And whereas the new law gives the Department of Environmental Conservation the ability to establish areas of the Hudson River where it shall be unlawful for petroleum-bearing vessels to enter, move, or anchor, now be it therefore resolved that the Village of Buchanan Board requests that DEC Commissioner Sagos of New York State immediately advance a rulemaking process to establish avoidance zones for petroleum-bearing vessels, implementing the strongest possible regulations allowed under the law. And be it further, oh my goodness, resolved that the mayor of the Village of Buchanan, New York, be hereby authorized and directed to send a copy of this resolution to the Honorable Andrew M. Cuomo, Governor of the State of New York, the Honorable Basil Sagos, Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Conservation, the Honorable Terrence Murphy, the Honorable Sandy Galiff, and to such other persons as the Mayor of the Village of Buchanan, in her discretion, may deem proper in order to effectuate the purpose of this resolution.
On the motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Well, basically, I'll just say,
Yeah,
that,
go ahead.
people probably were aware that it was in the news this past year that the Coast Guard wanted to establish anchoring sites in the middle of the Hudson, as far, I think it was from Yonkers to Albany or Tarrytown to Albany, and both for the possibility of accidents. Some of these would be oil-carrying barges, and for the appearance and the recreation on the river, it seemed to be detrimental to most of the local communities. And this is just a resolution in support of the state's action to combat these anchorage zones by establishing avoidance zones, tanker avoidance zones, where they cannot anchor. The village wants to express their support of that to the state.
In light of what just happened with the storm, where they had one of those, I think one of the barges down by the Tappan Zee Bridge
Good point.
dislodge and just float around, loaded with steel. At least steel doesn't pollute the water, but it's very important that we support this.
Right. And Lens Cove seems to be a magnet for things that are blown away in the wind. There were like 6 different docks that broke loose from other places, washed up at Lens Cove Park in the last storm. I counted 6 anyway. I didn't walk out along the cove very far, but stuff blows around in storms. It's a good point. It shows how important this is.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, now we have received the Justice Court report for January 18. Any questions? No. Planning Board meetings for December 2017? Any questions? No?
Nope.
We have the police report for February 2018. Any comments, report? No?
No.
We have the attorney's report.
I don't have anything new for you.
Okay, thank you.
Make some up.
Administrator's report?
I just got a couple of things. I just wanted to update everybody on the Bannon Avenue Water Pit project. The weather was rough this winter, so they wanted to originally try to start in February. It wasn't going to happen with the weather. Projected start date April 2nd. I just want to give everybody an update on that. Also, the bid for the water meters for the homes, and we didn't receive any bids for that project. After speaking with the engineer and getting feedback from potential bidders who did not end up bidding on the project, There were some suggestions, we're gonna make some tweaks, and we are going to rebid it. So I just wanted to let everybody know.
Have some water meters been put up already?
No, the ones for each house that we were gonna replace every household, we didn't receive any bids.
Okay,
So,
I was not home, but mine was changed last week.
the water meter?
What?
Con Ed.
Your
That's
Con Ed
Con
meter
Ed.
you're talking about.
The electric.
Con Ed
Gas
people,
meters maybe, but,
Electric.
your electric meter, but not
No,
the water
electric
meter.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna rebid it, and we'll make some changes, some tweaks to the bid package. I also want to remind everybody that village elections are March 20th this year. The hours are 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at night. That's really all I have for today.
Thank you. Teresa's not here, but she wanted to, she had a statement on the recent storm. So I'll read it out to you. Just wanted to give an update on the previous storm. Fortunately, we did not have the problems and damage other communities did. It was not necessary to open our warming centers. We did have tree damage on many properties, and unfortunately had a few homes on Center and 3rd Street still without power. Also tree damage and boat docks and other debris that washed up on our shore at Lentz Cove. Most of the village did not lose power. Broadway has been closed since the storm due to a damaged pole, but crews from Quebec were repairing it today, and the road has been reopened. I have been in contact with Con Edison for days on conference calls, trying to get Broadway reopened and power back to the residents on Center Street. Also, Senator Murphy has been a big help and has made calls on our behalf. The weather forecast for tomorrow is 9 to 12 of heavy snow. The village is prepared. If necessary, we will open a warming center at the village 2nd floor, and also the firehouse will open as a warming center. If necessary, we will send out a code red announcement with necessary information. Please stay safe and off the roads so that our highway department can clear roads and emergency responders can get through to the people who need help. Teresa. Okay, trustees report. Trustee Jordan.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to echo what the Teresa's message was, on my street, we had a big tree come down, and it could have been a lot worse down on Lake Drive. It hit one of the adjoining houses, and the top of the trees knocked off a couple of the leaders and the gutters off the house, but it could have been a lot worse. So we certainly dodged the bullet down on Lake Drive. Again, I want to commend all our village employees, from the police department to the highway department, on the excellent job that they did in terms of removing the trees that were out in the road and keeping the village functioning well during last Friday's storm. I think it's a testament to the work that they do, and especially a shout out to you, Wills, in terms of all the things that you do over at the highway department. Again, check on your elderly neighbors, make sure that they're okay. Just go by and check and see if they're fine. And we'll get through this. It's all in front of us at this point, but on the back end, we're all one neighborhood. So everybody be safe, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Trustee Pasquale.
Thank you, Rich. I just wanted to say I attended the St. Patty's Day dinner on Saturday, and it was such an outstanding turnout. I'd like to thank the committee chairs, Karen and Beth, and all the co-chairs, Holly, Rich, Kelly, Colleen, Michelle, and Wheels, and did a wonderful job. It really went great, and shout out also to our MC, Mike Guida. He did a good job, kept us laughing. Congrats again to our Grand Marshal, Dan, and aides, Bruce and Jim, and also our parade is going to be Sunday, so hopefully the weather will be somewhat decent, and we'll get to see those three guys out there again. Regards to our police department, we had a total of 60 calls for police service last month. I'm just going to highlight some here, this way community's aware of the kinds of things that our police are responding to. On February 7th, Officer Farrell received a call for a vehicle with extensive damage driving quickly on Albany Post Road. The vehicle was located and stopped. Through investigation, Officer Farrell determined that the operator was intoxicated and he was placed under arrest. Excellent job. That could have been a disaster when you're dealing with intox drivers. On February 20th at approximately 10:45, Officer Palmetto responded to a medical aided call at First Street residence. He rendered aid until he was relieved by paramedics and by ambulance corps members. On February 19th, Officer Loshner responds to his residence for possible overdose. She rendered aid until she was relieved by paramedics and ambulance corps members. On the 21st of February, Sergeant Guida responds to a neighbor dispute on Henry Street. Sergeant Guida spoke to all the neighbors involved and assisted them in coming to a resolution to their disagreement. On February the 21st, Officer Buddy responds to a leaving the scene auto accident on Albany Post Road involving a vehicle and a pedestrian. The pedestrian was not injured. Several hours later, Officer Palmetto was able to identify the operator of the vehicle involved, and the operator was issued several summonses. Last week, a couple of days ago, throughout the day, Buchanan officers responded to multiple calls of trees down, wires down, and roads blocked. The officers were able to coordinate with Con Ed and the Buchanan Highway Department to resolve as many issues as possible. To date, all issues are still not resolved. And also, I'd like to second what you had said about all the wonderful work that our highway department has done and everybody involved this past couple of days. On March the 5th, Officer Buddy responded to Tate Avenue, where a special needs individual who was upset had left the residence where he was staying and was refusing to return. Officer Buddy was able to calm the individual down. The individual then agreed to walk back to the residence with Officer Buddy. And on that, I would like to wish a very happy and blessed Easter to those who celebrate. And that's all I have.
Thank you. I think it's important what you do for the village. That sometimes you pass over the assignments, but Trustee Pasquale is the liaison with the police department, and he is the one who came up with the idea of taking this report and bringing it to life, really, because it's just a bunch of numbers on a piece of paper. It's hard sometimes, and I think what Cheech has done here is very important because it lets people know just how much that the police department is doing and how many interactions that they have that we are all glad that we don't have to be involved in, that we have a police department to do it. So thank you for doing that, Cheech. Very good. Trustee Thackeray.
Me? Well, thank you.
Yeah, your time's up.
So let's see. I saw it in the paper this past week, just a little environmental point. I saw in the paper this week about Columbia University, some lab affiliated with them, did some study in the Hudson, up and down the Hudson, testing the water, and found several different pharmaceuticals in the water. We use a lot of these things and we forget that they wind up in the environment. So just to, remind people, we do have a village drop-off center. Do not flush unused medications. The drop-off center will make sure that here at the village hall, at the police department, you can drop off prescription drugs or anything that's sitting around that, in the way of pharmaceuticals that should not be. Probably most important of all are the narcotic painkillers that are leading to a lot of problems these days. 42,000 deaths last year in this country. Please be aware that we do have a drop-off center, and there are county-wide days where you can drop off prescription drugs. If you go on the county website, you could probably find that information. But right here in the village, we have a spot. We don't need that stuff to wind up in the river or in the wrong hands. Garbage in the streets also winds up out in the river, going through storm drains and dumping out into the waterways. Put your cigarette butts in the ashtrays. Keep your McDonald's wrappers to yourself. Do not, It always amazes me that people have no personal qualms about throwing some garbage out their window. I'm like fanatic, even a little piece of cellophane or no matter how small, I'll just stick it aside until I have a stop. Please be aware of that. Anything you throw in the street winds up in the rivers. Let's keep our village clean and our waterways clean. And the only other thing I wanted to talk about tonight, just briefly, is the appearance around the village. I know how important code violations and appearance is to people in the village, and I want to remind people that the process, the building inspector has his hands full with the cases that come to him and the things he has to do, and the way the process starts, if there's if there's a building on your block that's in disrepair, gutters falling down, people are given 30 days to remedy, but the process starts with a complaint. I've offered this before. Anybody that does not want to complain can contact me, and I will put in the complaint and not say who told me, because neighbors don't want to offend neighbors. Well, some do. I'm going to ask people to be aware that if like a rundown building, and we are working on that building on White Street. It's in a legal hurdle right now, which hopefully sometime in the next few months will be complete, and we'll be able to take down that structure. I personally think, for safety reasons, we should be out there with a bulldozer right now. But beautification, keeping things in repair, is everybody's responsibility, and the process with our building inspector starts with a complaint. You can leave me a note in my mailbox at the Village Hall. You can go on the village website, email me. My name is Nick Zachary, and I would be glad to pass that complaint on without relaying where it came from. I've complained about a couple of properties myself, but I'm not running up and down every street and looking at every gutter and things that are falling apart and in disrepair. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Zachary. I think most of the things have been said that I was going to say. Pasquale mentioned about the St. Patrick's Day party and the parade. I think it was a great show put on by the committee. I unfortunately this year wasn't able to do anything on the committee, but the people who work on it are really do a hell of a lot of work, and I really appreciate them very much doing that. And then the parade, of course, is on the 11th. One thing that wasn't, myself and Nick and Teresa attended the New York State Task Force on the closing of Indian Point, and I think that we got there was myself, Nick, Teresa, and Linda Puglisi, and her, who's the other person with Linda, was Nick? The town planner or the appraiser, I forget which it was. But anyway, there was about 19 people from the state. And they're all well-meaning and everything, but we really made it very clear. We want, not the whole community, but at least the mayor and Linda and the school chancellor should be meeting with the governor, not just having this committee, because we're not. It's the governor who can pick up the phone and get things done right away. The head of the schools, Mr. Hockmeyer, I always pronounce his name incorrect. Yes, excuse me, I'm
Joel.
sorry. Yeah, he brought out that their problems cover not just several state agencies, but also education. And it's only somebody, the governor, that can get these people all together and sit them down and say, all right, whatever he needs to get done, get done. And we made that very clear. And we made it very clear that we feel that we should be getting a sizable amount of the money that Entergy has been putting away for the storage of this nuclear power, nuclear fuel. Also, we're looking at, and hopefully we may be able to get grants that will, and it was Trustee Zachary brought this up, for our sewer treatment plant, because there is some plans from the town of Cortland about having some sort of a water amusement park. I'm not sure exactly what the details of it, but they would be hooking up into our sewer system, so our sewer plant could actually become a moneymaker, which, again, every little bit counts, every place we can defer expenses count. So in light of what I just said, I want you all to have a happy St. Patrick's Day, and that's coming from a guy who grew up, part of my life growing up in Ireland, so it's a big day in my family, and a happy Easter also. And Kevin, glad to have you back.
Yes, sir.
Kevin underwent major surgery, and he looks the same as when he left here. So I'm very glad to have you back. And again, Rob, congratulations. It says an awful lot about our police department, and when you think about it, that if he saved a person's life, that's incredible, you know, and that person's going to be able to grow up. All right, comments from the floor. Anybody?
Eileen Absinger, 138 Tate Avenue. Kevin, welcome back.
Thank you.
Will that public hearing proposed law amending Chapter 181 be on the website for preview before the public hearing? Can you put it on the website so that people can see
The local
it?
law?
Yeah, the local law. The
We can put it
amending.
in the supporting documents, I guess, yeah, for a meeting. We usually put it in there. We can make sure it's there.
You make sure so that this way
If
everybody
it's not there
gets it.
now, I'll make sure that it goes in with this resolution setting the public hearing.
Okay. Rich, could you just give a summation of an enhanced 911 for those that do not know, even though it was stated it's explanatory?
I'll have to admit that. Do you know anything on that, Kevin? Because
We talked about it earlier today.
I really don't know anything about
The
that.
enhanced 911 system, instead of just receiving a number for a 911 call, you also are going to receive an address, a name, potentially, you know, who the police department covering the area, the fire department, or the ambulance services. So they're going to get more information when the person calls in for 911 versus just getting a number, and they're going to get, that's really part of it. And part of it's also maintaining the infrastructure that Westchester County has. This is the second time we've gone through this IMA. We
No,
did
I
5
just wanted it so
Yeah,
that
that's
anybody new
usually what
that
the
might not
difference
know
is, yeah.
about it has a little
A
idea.
little more information they're getting with the
Okay.
calls.
All right. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Nothing else.
Anyone else? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you for coming.
Have a great Buchanan day.